Okay, it's been long awaited to do this recap. A lot of things are happening. Anyways, in episode 7, we see we're at the hospital again for Jerome's medication. Even though his hand is healed, he needs medication. Okay. Jin, on the other hand, thinks that going to this hospital is a waste of time because they can't really tell what's wrong with Jerome. And even though Jerome is like, he feels okay, Jin thinks that Jerome needs a brain scan or something from a different hospital. Literally, his words, he calls the hospital and the doctors are stupid. But Jerome, on the other hand, Jerome thinks that he's perfectly fine and that he feels very cool for having a superpower that he can actually help people, mostly actually help his man with anything that's dangerous coming. Even though technically he never tells Jin the danger, he just tells him that he can see the future. Later, they went to the condo to play in the condo's pool because, let's be honest, with all these brain hurt and talking about future, they do need their brain to relax, and that's exactly what they did. After they're done playing, Jin still finds it hard to believe that his man is actually seeing the future. Even though Jerome can't explain it himself, and Jin can't really um, think of any ways how to get this idea around his head, but hey, he has to accept that because one or two times the things that actually happened Jerome knows, and even though they're stuff that Jerome is hiding from him, why not believe it by now? Jin, however, says it's a bigger disadvantage on his side because during the whole time that Jerome and Jin have been together, Jerome only done things for Jin and he sees things about Jin which makes Jerome gets an advantage of knowing the stuff that Jin likes, like the ice cream and the book of finding out where the book is, but Jin says it's a big disadvantage on his case because he doesn't know anything about Jerome except for the fact that they're in a relationship and he can see the future. Other from that, he knows nothing about Jerome. I do feel it for Jerome because every time they will talk about the future, Jin will mention something about death and if Jerome can see such further down in the future. Jerome asks Jin and asks Jin not to talk about that. Now, we know that there's death coming and Jerome knows, but Jerome won't tell Jin, which is the sad part. Again, like Jin says, he knows nothing. But for the sake of keeping Jin safe, Jerome chooses to keep that part of a secret. But this is new to Jerome. Jerome is having nosebleed. Now, this probably his body is taking a toll with all the medication and the dreams and the changing of future. Hear me out. Remember, every time Jerome will have a vision, his head hurts, which means I feel like the reason he's getting brain or headaches is because each time he tries to change the future, that happens. Honestly, I do feel it for Jin because even though Jin is very worried about Jerome, he knows nothing what's going on. Anyways, Jerome is still convinced to make this relationship work, and because Jin said he doesn't know anything about Jerome, Jerome says he wants to start this whole relationship over and he wants to actually pursue Jin in a way that Jin will know everything about him. Now we're at Van and Farm. Van is thanking Farm for accompanying him to visit his parents. Now, I remember saying in last episode that Van confessed to Farm. That's a lie. It happened in this episode. Anyways, they're talking and Van then said Farm is pretty much the only friend out of all the friends that showed how much he loves and care for him. Then Vanna asked Farm to be his boyfriend. Farm got super excited and kissed Van, then asked Van how long has he known that he liked him. My question is, you knew that this boy liked you, and the whole time you were teasing it was actually him to confess first, but right now you probably take too long, so you actually confess to him now? Wow, Van, you're devious. It's the next morning, and trust me, Jerome was taking the relationship courting seriously because when Jin got into the bathroom, he noticed that there was a toothpaste prepared on his toothbrush and it shocked him. And then he asked Jerome, what the hell is he doing? Jerome came with a spatula and a spoon saying he's courting him and even making breakfast for Jin. Honestly, the face that Jin made the entire time, the first thing that I thought about was Whoville. You know, the Grinch? Whoville. Look at that. You can't tell me this boy don't look like one of the Whovilles in Grinch. Now that you see it, you can't unsee it. I'm telling you. I see it. See, he's so cute with his smile. Let me tell you, I always say C's name is C Jr. because he is C and Jimmy's son. I thought Taito wasn't sponsoring GMMTV, but I guess it's just certain shows. Anyways, when I saw this, all I thought about is XOXO, Gossip Girls, even though I haven't watched Gossip Girls, but it's giving a vibes of Gossip Girl. Don't come for me. You know what's so shocking, and or maybe it's too soon to say, but Jin and Jerome are talking to Van and Farm, and not once did Van and Farm mention that they're in a relationship in front of Jin and Jerome. At lunchtime, Mike came saying he has under a lot of stress with school and work and whatever, so he wants to de-stress himself by going out to drink. And he managed to convince all of them to go out with him this time. Okay, so while the others are drunk and dancing crazy, Farm and Jerome went outside to take a smoke. Now, I know a lot of you fans are not happy with seeing these actors with a cigarette or actually smoking the cigarette. We must also understand that they are big boys. They can do whatever they want, it's their body. We might not like it, but we just have to live with it. Anyways, while they are out smoking, Farm is wondering why Jerome is not smoking. Jerome says that he quits, and Farm is like, when? Now, since Farm knows about Jerome's thinking or dreaming about the future, Jerome told Farm that in the future he stopped smoking, so it's best for him to start smoking now. He also revealed to Farm that Jerome and Jin are in a relationship, which shocked Farm. You think this is the part where Farm says he and Van is in a relationship, but that did not come out. You know, I was gonna curse bad words, but I did not put a disclaimer. So, anyways, while Farm is talking to Jerome, Farm spots some stupid drunk about to do something stupid and messed up. Farm spotted Van being drunk and trying to disclose, almost got intimate with a drunken girl herself, but then Van sees Farm seeing him and he got very apologetic. Now my question is, it hasn't been 24, or maybe it has been, but it hasn't been a whole week or so and you're already been doing stupid shit. Like, dude, you just confessed to the man and kissed him and now you're out here doing this? You know, looking back, this is exactly what Jin and Jerome was actually warning us and Van about. When Van confessed to Jin and Jerome that maybe he wants to be in a relationship with Farm, Jin and Jerome said no because they know how Van is. Jerome even looked at Van and said don't do it because his friend's heart is very fragile, and you still went and do the exact thing that they told you not to do. No wonder you didn't tell them that you're in a relationship because they know how you would be. Now we're at Jin and Jerome. The only person who's drunk here is Jin, and Jerome has to take care of Jin because we have a sponge bath. Even though I never seen the sponge or the bath, but it's very famous. Anyways, even when Jin is super drunk, he still cares for Jerome by telling him to take his medication. At this point, who are we supposed to worry about here? Okay, back to these two where Van is trying to apologize for his wrongdoing to Farm, even though Farm says he forgives him. Dude, you forgive this boy too easy. I get that you love this boy, but still, put a foot down and show some strength in you, Farm. Like, dude, this is why he's getting away with everything with you. Now, as much as sexy this is and hot, don't do this in real life. Don't let a female or a man actually use sex to escape the problems that they cause. Now again, this is sexy, but don't do this in real life. The fact that Van is getting away with this shows how much he knows that Farmer really loves him. But if he do anything that cause this problem again, Farm, move on. That's all I'm saying. If he does something wrong again, move on. Now, after Jerome put Jin to bed, he went to look at the book. In the book, he saw the drawing that he did with Jin. Then he started smiling. But when he skipped the page, he saw the car crash. Now, that is shocking because he didn't draw that. But when he looked at the book again after having a headache, the drawing is never there. It never happened, which means he saw this future of him drawing it, but then his head hurts. It's given the fact that you like Final Destination, you messed with the timeline, and now the timeline is trying to rewrite itself, and your body can't manage that because your head is hurting, because your body doesn't know about that. If that makes sense, you rewriting history. You first got crashed, you're supposed to be getting injured. Instead, you're getting all that memory of the future of Jin getting involved in an accident, and now it's changing to now Jin and his mother getting in an accident. Everything is just crazy. Then Jerome went into the living room and started drawing the exact crash. Now, in my opinion, I don't think Jerome should have drawn it, but if he's drawing it, it means he's accepting the actual fate that is happening, accepting what's happening, accepting that that is the future. Honestly, I don't know how you're going to stop that future. The next day, early in the morning, Jerome went to the exact place that he thinks where the crash will happen. But is it this location? I don't know. I don't remember seeing that logo there, but it looks like the same station, like the same location. I mean, it is a pole, but is it the right pole? Then Jane called because he woke up and he didn't see Jerome in the house or in the condo. When Jane asked Jerome where he is, Jerome lied about his location and told him he's at somewhere near the condo. Now, seeing that they're almost ready to go to school, Jane wanted to go pick him up. Immediately, Jerome shouted, "Don't drive!" And Jin is like, "Why are you shouting?" Jerome made an excuse because saying that the where he is too loud. Clearly, it's not that loud, but I understand what he's saying. He's still not telling Jin the reason for his paranoid self by being overprotective for Jin. I'm pretty sure Jin will kind of figure it out though. Damn, it's like Murphy's Law. When you think everything is okay, you definitely overlooked something. Anyways, the reason Jin is in the hospital right now is because when they were at school or university, they were walking beside a building in the university with scaffolding, and one of the pipe fell on Jin's head, knocking him unconscious. When Jin woke up, they asked Jin because my van and farm is there as well with Jerome. They asked Jin if he remembers anything. Jin said he remembers only walking and something fell on his head and that was it. Well, I love the accuracy of what GMTV is coming up with when it comes to the mind, body, and soul. After everyone left, leaving just Jerome to take care of his man because that's what a good boyfriend should do. Anyways, Jerome said that he feels bad because he took his medication and he fell asleep. If he hadn't taken the medication, he would have saw this future and actually saved Jin. Jin then said this is something he shouldn't blame himself for because things happened. Jin said ever since Jerome told him that he can see the future, Jin feared that this would be one thing that Jerome would blame himself for. If he gets hurt or anyone gets hurt, he will blame himself. Jin then kissed Jerome and tell Jerome to not put this on his head, and also said that sometimes when things happen, he can't be a superhero to save everyone. Then Jin tries to make Jerome promise that whatever happens here on out, he will not blame himself and tells himself that he did his best. He also tried to say if Jin also said if he dies, then he also shouldn't blame himself. Again, Jerome hates when Jin brings this sentence up because he knows in the future Jin will die. Jin then tells Jerome that maybe it's best they should break up because if Jin breaks up with Jerome, they don't have to worry about this whole problem. Jerome does not want to break up with Jin because he knows he loves him and he just wants to keep Jin protected. Jin knows how Jerome is, he knows his feelings, and he knows how he really is when it comes to protection, which is why he asks Jerome to promise him on this. Jin can't make such promises, but if it's either that or breaking up, he has no choice but to say those things he promised. Let's be honest, no living thing likes death. They all fear it, but we can't stop it. It happens. Now, if there is actually an afterlife or a reincarnation, man, I wouldn't mind if I could reincarnate in a different world, but in the future. You don't know how many times I'm tired of seeing a reincarnated anime, and they all reincarnated back in the old days where there's no technology and just magic. Like, forget all that. Reincarnate me in the future in a different world or something. Let me know what's happening in like 400 and something years or 4,000 or 4,000 or 5,000. God knows I ain't gonna live that long, but at least reincarnate me somewhere in those future. After being discharged, they went home or went to the condo. Now you're probably wondering, why is it that Jin's mother never showed up at the hospital? Well, that's because no one told the mother that her son was in an accident. And to be honest, Jin is grateful because he knows his mother would probably sue the university for their negligence and their misuse of tools, which I don't know, nothing wrong with a little bit of suing. Now, while they were talking, Jerome noticed Jin is looking at the notebook. So Jin excused himself, took up the notebook and go into the room to hide it in a drawer. Because we know that Jerome draw more than just cutesy stuff in the notebook. He draw about the crash. And because he doesn't want Jin to know about the crash, he's hiding it. Eventually this boy will get suspicious or finds it, You should at least tell him something instead of hiding it. I get that you want to protect Jin, but Jerome, how are you going to be in a relationship if you can't even trust him with all the information that you said you will do? Also, Jin noticed about his sleeping pills and he decided to throw them away because if he doesn't take them, maybe he can see the future, but if he takes them, he can. Now, I did look up on X and someone really zoomed in on the medication bottle and said it's not sleeping pills. What wrote on it is like a medication for the brain. So basically, maybe that's why Jerome's keep having headaches because the medication he's taking. Meanwhile, with Jin's mother, Jin is actually playing lovey-dovey with Jin's father. Now, didn't we see what he did to Jin? And Jin clearly doesn't like his father. I mean, if the mother was dating somebody else, maybe Jin would be okay with it. But the fact that she's secretly dating the father, and not once have they mentioned Jin's name in any of their conversation, which means they're not talking about their son. They're talking about getting together. How will they say this to Jin? Good luck. Jerome, on the other hand, sneakily went to the shop and saw that Jin's mother left the shop with Jin's father. Now, Jerome is only doing this purely out of concerns of what's going to happen and the situation. All of that would occur because of the father showing up. God help them all. So it is next day and Jerome is gearing up to go to class, or at least that's what he says he's going to do. We'll let you know where he went later. But anyways, he said he's going to class, but Jin has to stay home because of his injury. He has to rest, even though he's gonna get bored. Jerome told Jin that he prepared everything for him, even food, just in case when he's hungry, just heat it up. Wow. I'm telling you, being with a man, test your catering skills. Then at university, we see Van and Farm, and Van is not scared to show his love for Farm. Now, I'm not sure about Van because it's too soon to say you're turning good. We're not gonna forget what you just did like a couple days ago. Not because you slept with this boy doesn't mean you should just used it. After class, we get to find out from Mai and Van and Farm that Jerome never showed up for school, even though that is where Jerome told Jin he would be. Instead, Jerome is somewhere else, but where? Jerome went to Jin's mother to talk to her about the fact that he knows about her secretly seeing Jin's father. He also urges her to talk to Jin about it and tell him about the relationship that she's having with the father. Now, we know that this is the best way because Jerome said that if she doesn't and if he finds out on his own, it's not gonna be good. Jin's mother said she knows that the time should come when she tells him, but every time she try mention the father's name, Jin will get very offensive. So it's not a right time and she doesn't know when to tell him. She also knows that both of them, both Jerome and the mother, knows how Jin is. So to find a time to talk about it, I don't know, but she has to find somewhere because if he finds out, we're gonna get in the car crash. If he doesn't, I don't know what's gonna happen. But we need to talk about everything, and I need to know everything on the father's side, why he decided to disown his own son. Okay, after Jerome left Jin's mother, he went to the place where he thinks that the crash will happen with Jin and his mother, only to find out he's the one that got into the accident because a truck crashed into him. Now, I love how GMMTV acting normal in the whole thing, like the fact that Jerome is in critical condition while his man is in the condo acting like he doesn't know what's happening right now. On the other hand, though, this is like Dokubi, you know that Korean goblin show with Gong Yu, whereas the goblin is preventing the girl from dying, but instead he gets in the problem too. So in the end, the girl end up dying because she is supposed to die and the goblin shouldn't help. So maybe that's what's happening. Jin's supposed to get into the accident, but Jerome keeps messing and interfering with Faith. Now, meanwhile, Jerome is in critical condition and actually losing a lot of blood. Jin is texting back the I love you to Jerome. Remember, Jin thinks that Jerome is literally in the university. He doesn't know nothing. I am shocked though. With that accident, the phone is literally in mint condition. No scratch, no nothing. Boy, GMMTV, you could at least show the crack on a phone, let you know that the phone got something too. Damn.